The movie begins in a forest in Alaska in 1979, where two lumberjacks have just finished their workday. On their way home, the radios in their trucks start to experience interference until suddenly one of the trucks is lifted into the air for a few seconds before crashing down onto the hood of another vehicle. While trying to help his injured partner, Card, the other lumberjack manages to see what caused the accident: a UFO. Terrified, he tries to flee through the forest, but ends up being abducted by the aliens. We jump to the present to meet Isaac, a young computer engineer who works at a NASA base in California. One of his colleagues, Beck, informs him that they are continuing to receive mysterious signals from Canada, even though NASA does not have any terrestrial satellites in that country. After staying late at the office, Isaac notices a new signal, this time of unknown origin. Another day, following his psychologist's advice, he begins recording a video diary to express his feelings and heal from past traumas. While making one of these videos on a hill, he sees a meteorite entering the Earth's atmosphere and landing just a few meters from where he is. Seconds later, the military arrives, so Isaac hides in the bushes to investigate on his own. Thus, he manages to film the meteorite, which turns out to be a UFO stranded on the mountain, though it disappears without warning. Confused, Isaac is about to head home when an alien suddenly crosses his path. Although frightened, he manages to discreetly record it. After a few seconds of observation, the alien heads into the forest without harming him. Of course, Isaac runs away in terror, since an alien is not something one sees every day. 3 days later, Isaac wakes up on a cliff with no idea what happened. However, upon reviewing his camera, he discovers that he was abducted by extraterrestrials. After barely making it back home, Isaac realizes a new symptom of abduction. In addition to pain and fatigue, he can make an object disappear simply by staring at it, and with a bit of concentration, he can bring it back. When he goes to see a doctor, he's informed that he has a fracture in his right arm, but unlike normal fractures, his is perfectly straight and precise, as though it were part of a surgical procedure. Shortly thereafter, at work, he decides to show Beck his power. Although he does manage to make a glass disappear, his friend can still see it, accusing him of lying. Isaac then shows him something more concrete: the recordings of the alien. He also posts them on social media. The video goes viral, prompting KFLA, a television network, to contact him for an interview. Isaac arrives ready to share something exciting, but everything has been set up to make him look like a lunatic and a national laughingstock. So much so that an unknown man on another channel swears he helped Isaac create the fake alien video. Unwilling to accept this, Isaac begins investigating real abduction cases on his own. This leads him to Sarah, an internet user who has a fracture similar to his, and they agree to meet at a cafe. While waiting, Isaac sees silverware and other utensils floating in the air, although it turns out to be just a brief hallucination. Sarah finally appears, and Isaac shows her various pieces of evidence that aliens have always been close to humans, such as 15th century paintings and strange radio signals picked up by astronauts. Sarah then mentions a man named Carl, who was abducted in 1979 in Alaska, and whose story was proven true by a lie detector, but who disappeared shortly thereafter without a trace. Remember that lumberjack from earlier? Well, now he's living in a cabin far from civilization, spending his days listening to the radio in case he picks up some mysterious signal. Guess what? He's finally found it. So many years after his abduction, it looks like he may finally get answers. Back to Isaac, who, determined to clear his public image, begins creating tapes of his alien video and manually sending them to conspiracy enthusiasts' offices. While he's putting the tapes in a mailbox, he's approached by Kit, a journalist who offers to help share his story. Isaac goes to Kit's office, where Kit suggests using a lie detector to give his extraterrestrial experience more credibility. Luckily for Isaac, the test confirms he has been telling the truth the whole time. Unluckily, Kit works for the government and sends 2 agents to kidnap him. Isaac is taken to a secret laboratory equipped with cutting-edge technology and android guards. While being strapped in for interrogation, he sees that Sarah has also been captured. Kit, actually an agent, appears on a screen, explaining that they need to examine how much contact Isaac has had with the aliens in order to proceed with helping him. Indeed, the U.S. government has a division for abducted individuals. They ask him to use his powers on various objects, but Isaac is too nervous to concentrate. Graves then asks him if he has had contact with Carl, prompting Isaac to recall the strange signals coming from Canada. Isaac decides to keep that information to himself. Instead, he musters the strength to break free from the chair and confront the robotic guards, grabbing one's laser pistol. He manages to rescue Sarah and fend off the rest of the androids. Seeing that there are too many of them, Isaac has no choice but to attempt using his powers, and thankfully they work, allowing them to reach the exit. Outside, they discover they are in the jungles of Costa Rica, which is a worse situation than they imagined. But they must focus on contacting Carl before Graves hunts them down with everything he has. With the help of some locals, Isaac and Sarah are guided to Sid, a hacker who lives on the island. They must move quickly because of the arrival of more androids. While taking them to his hideout, Sid explains that the robots belong to the Space Research Program, PS, a UN agency responsible for covering up extraterrestrial incidents. Upon reaching Sid's amazing treehouse, Sarah uses the moment of tranquility to share her own abduction story with Isaac, mentioning that nobody believed her back then. Isaac then gives Sid data from a California satellite to access its history, which leads them to the signals from Canada and ultimately Carl's home. They call Carl again, and this time Isaac manages to get his attention by telling him about his experience with aliens and the PS agents. Isaac also reveals that a few days ago, he received a reply signal from an unknown location, probably for that very reason. As soon as Carl hears this, he demands that Isaac transmit the frequency. With his various decryption devices, Carl manages to translate the message, in which the aliens state they will land in Canada in 5 days. Carl then hangs up, fearing the agency may be listening. In view of this development, Isaac wants to accompany Carl to see the extraterrestrials, which Sarah at first dislikes but ultimately accepts, swayed by her friend's enthusiasm. And Sid, of course, can't resist tagging along. With the hacker's assistance, they set out for Canada in a small plane, unaware that Graves' agents can track them. After a long journey, the trio continues by train, but the androids are just a few meters away on motorcycles. When the robots board the train, the trio tries using masks to confuse them, but they aren't fooled. This forces them to flee to the roof of the train, where one android is hit by a branch while the other continues the chase, only to become the hunted when Sid surprises it around a corner, throwing it off the train. Shortly thereafter, they arrive at Carl's cabin, where he deactivates the trackers planted in Isaac's and Sarah's arms. He then shows them the devices he's been using to translate the alien signals and try to communicate with them, noting that the one Isaac intercepted is the most accurate he has ever heard. Carl also recounts his abduction story from 1979, when he tried to run but his body suddenly froze and he lost consciousness. Graves, for his part, somehow manages to pinpoint their location and prepares to send in his entire force. Later, Isaac and Sarah talk privately about their abduction experiences, mentioning how something changed within them afterward. They hope the aliens will provide answers. When they return to the cabin, Carl and Isaac plan their upcoming meeting with the aliens, acknowledging the risk that the aliens might not be as friendly as they hope. That night, Sarah has trouble sleeping due to anxiety, and Isaac comforts her, telling her he's happy to have met someone who understands him. Finally, the long-awaited day arrives. While everyone waits patiently, the cabin is shaken by a slight tremor. Immediately, Isaac separates from the group and goes into the forest, where he finds some aliens waiting for him. In the next scene, we see the aliens with Isaac and the others, explaining why they abducted them while Carl's decryption device translates their language. The alien creature confesses that its species has conquered technology, science, medicine, and the physical world, but is now searching for something greater, the origin of the universe. It turns out that every being is imbued with a divine aura related to Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the creator of all existence. They then ask why their arms haven't stopped hurting. The aliens reveal that they implanted a tracker for research purposes, and they remove Isaac's implant with a highly advanced device. The extraterrestrials point out that their battle to prove evidence of their abduction is futile in a world where people have to see to believe. Just then, they hear the agents arriving at the cabin, and an enraged Graves orders them to come out peacefully, especially Carl, whom he questions about the death of his father, Ronald, one of Carl's fellow lumberjacks. Carl emerges armed with a shotgun, making it clear he doesn't want to know what really happened to Ronald on that fateful day of the abduction. Unsatisfied with Carl's response, Graves orders his execution. Sarah also comes out to help, but she is shot right in front of Isaac, who can do nothing because the aliens are still removing his tracker. Before leaving for another dimension, the aliens remind Isaac to trust his instincts and focus his concentration, advice that helps him unlock his powers completely. Just when the agents begin firing on the cabin, Isaac manages to stop time and carry his friends into a parallel dimension, where the extraterrestrials heal Sarah. Graves is left speechless by their sudden disappearance, though he manages to see the UFO leaving the planet. 6 months later, Isaac and Sarah, who have fallen in love, move in together in Costa Rica, seeking a normal life after all those crazy events. Isaac still uses his powers from time to time. Meanwhile, Sid and Carl now work together, creating a new technology company. As for Graves, he was fired for his abuse of power in the last mission. In the final scene, Isaac ends his video diary, which he never imagined would be so remarkable. But life surprised him like never before.